Hi, Josh. Okay, so we'll go through a few of these questions. This one here, you can see all I've done is change the numbers. The process will be the exact same. You're looking to find what the value of x is, and that's the height of the triangle. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I am going to basically redraw the triangle without the height. So my artistic skills are not that good. So this is the 50. This is the 45. And then we know this is 30 in terms of that answer. So we have these values. Now, based on triangles, we know that all three have to add up to give us 180. So when I calculate that, that means that this angle at the top is going to be 85. Now I'm going to use sine law. I'm going to find this side over here. So this side right here is equivalent to LB in my diagram. So that means I'm going to have the sine of 50 degrees over LB equals the sine of 85 degrees over 30. So when I isolate LB, I'm going to cross multiply, so LB sine of 85 equals 30 sine of 50. And then I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 85. So I get 30 sine of 50 degrees over the sine of 85 degrees, which is going to equal about 23.1 meters. So I'm going to add that to this diagram up here. From there, all I'm going to consider is the triangle that I've highlighted in green. So now I have a right triangle. If I'm looking at 45, this here, that's my opposite. This is the hypotenuse. So the sine of 45 degrees is going to equal x over 23.1. So that means x equals 23.1 sine of 45. So x would have a value of about 16.3 meters, which makes sense based on the picture because it has to definitely be less than 30. Hopefully that helps with 1C. Your process will be the same. Essentially, you're going to replace the numbers and work it out. Now, the ambiguous case. The ambiguous case is definitely a little bit tricky, and I haven't put it on the exam. However, it won't hurt to go through this little example. So I'm going to sketch my triangle. So I'm going to put L down here. So that's the 42.8 degrees. The L over here is going to be 15.8, and then right here is going to be 18.5. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to compare are N and L. So N is less than L. The fact that N is less than L, we need to consider the ambiguous case. So from there, we need to know what the height is. And the height is going to tell us what's happening. So when I create the height, I'm making a right triangle. So I know that the sine of 42.8 degrees, oh, I don't need that line right there. Of course, the whole thing goes away. So we have the sine of 42.8 degrees is going to equal h over 18.5. So h equals 18.5 sine of 42.8 degrees. So h is about, when I look at it, 12.6. Okay, so this 12.6 gives us a lot of information. If n, so if this side over here, this 18.5 is bigger than L, then this is why we need to do this little work. So when I compare it, I know the height is going to be less than side L, which is less than side N. Because this number is in the middle of these two values, it means that it's the ambiguous case. If L was equal to n, that would be a right triangle. And then if L was less than n, there would be no triangle. So this will be important on that thinking question that we'll get to in a minute. The fact that it's the ambiguous case, that means there's two possibilities. So we are going to have the acute triangle, so the one that I've drawn there, where I know that this is going to be 42.8. This will be the 18.5. And then the other value that we have is 15.8. So that's one triangle. Then we have the obtuse version of this triangle. So then, oh wow, that's not a straight line. So then we have this triangle where we still have 18.5. We still have 15.8. And then this angle right here is going to be the 42.8. Once you find this angle over here, so once you find this angle right here, I'm going to call that theta. If I were to sort of change colors and put the dotted line in for this right here, if you know this is theta, that means this is theta because your triangle is going to be isosceles. This angle will be 180 minus theta. So I hope that helps you in terms of this question and solving what's going on. So this leads in nicely to what we're going to do over here in this question. So determine the length of n if no triangle can be drawn. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly sketch a picture here. So I'm going to say that this is 62 degrees. So this is n. I'm going to say that m is right here at 24.5. So this is down here. And then that means n is this right here. So if no triangle can be drawn, we need to find the height. Height is always going to be found the same way. It's always going to be sine of whatever the angle is you have. The height is the opposite. Your hypotenuse will be the other side. So h is equal to 24.5 sine of 62. So h is equal to 21.6 centimeters. Now, if no triangle is going to be drawn in this particular case, the value of n has to be smaller than this here. So n has to be less than h. For one triangle to be drawn, we know that n has to be greater than 24.5 because n, so the side that's opposite the angle, it just needs to be bigger than this one. So in order for there to be one. Then in C, if there's going to be exactly a right triangle, that's the one where we have the actual height. So it'll be 21.6. So that means, in terms of the ambiguous case, n has to be between 26 and 24.5. So I did a lot of the work in that question for you. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is to calculate the height, and then that's going to determine what's going on in the rest of the question. All right, the last one that we're looking at here, so we have the chord, you're looking for the radius. These are both radius, which then means we have an isosceles triangle. So we have 55 degrees right here. This angle, when we subtract from 180, we're left with 125, and you divide that by 2, so we get 60. Let me do that quickly. 62.5 degrees. From there, you have enough information to be able to use the sine law. So hopefully that will help you answer these questions. If not, just send me an email and I'll come up with a different explanation.